Hello, Mr. Joel Minney.
Hello, Mr. Michael W. Bell.
How are you, good sir?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm living it up in the world of home,
In the world of being at home.
and fatherhood and work still, unfortunately.
Yes, you are. You are, delivering wine in lockdown, aren't you? Or delivering alcohols.
Yeah. No, well, I say unfortunately. Actually, I'm one of the lucky ones. Let's be honest. Now, some people haven't got it this good. So I can't complain. To be honest with you, I'm pretty happy.
It's one of those things, mate. One of those things. Well, thanks for being on here, mate. We've had an interesting journey this morning, Joe, haven't we? We've tried FaceTime, we've tried Google Hangout.
Yeah.
Both of which failed.
I know, very, very badly. Us techies literally looking like amateurs very easily there.
It is, and I do like the fact that we're actually on Skype and FaceTime at the same time.
I know, we've done well, literally.
You can see me through the powers that be on FaceTime, but Skype's doing the hard work in terms of the feed. But
exactly.
So I suppose I've been doing these interviews all week.
Yes.
And because we're in lockdown, and I suppose I feel lonely, so I thought I'd get all my mates on Skype and record them and put them out there.
Nice.
Can you? I mean, me and you we've been mates now by what, 6 years?
Yeah, I want to say 6-7 years. I think it's coming up 7 years this year.
It is coming up 7 years. So how do you have a first memory of when you first met me?
Absolutely, because I interviewed you. So I remember getting shouted at by my boss's boss for not serving a customer for a refund during your interview, actually, which is quite weird, I guess. But it was worth it because, to be honest with you, I employed not only someone who's bloody good at their job, but I found a lifelong friend. So what else can you say, really? I think I made the right decision by telling him to come back later. when I was free. I don't think it was that much of a problem. But anyways, the rest is history. I had, we had some amazing times working in Stormfront. Usually spent in the pub after work, which I think where we found our kind of love of ale, music, common ground. And a little bit of education, I think, as well, from both of our sides. You certainly on your film score and learning about that, and your band history, and me kind of going, here's drum and bass. Listen to this. Here's some bad boy breakbeat. Listen to this.
I think first thing, it's just amazing we can actually say, we were working at Stormfront, because neither of us work there anymore. So
I know,
like it matter, which I love. Second thing, yes, exactly. It definitely was you working in the shop. There was always like whoever was kind of doing a specific out back task there. Which normally was you doing delivery or something like that. It would be right, Joel. I knew Joel was doing delivery because whenever there was some sort of whenever there was a task that was going to take 2-3 hours. There'd be drum and bass playing in the back. And I would say that definitely, I mean, even my 30th birthday, wasn't it? We ended up at a daytime rave at Fabric.
Well, daytime rave, that was awesome.
It was absolutely awesome, and I went to, that was my first time at Fabric, wasn't it?
First time at Fabric, but the first proper club night rave was Andy C, XOYO.
Which was awesome.
And let's be honest, that was just basically, well, not only was that a brilliant night for the music, but we also found probably the best burger we've eaten in London as well. So
but burger and patty. And I still feel bad because my card somehow, I paid for it and it went bing on the Apple Pay, but nothing, I didn't pay for it. And I still feel bad about that. I feel like... No.
That was the time me, you and Laura went.
Oh, we've been a couple of times, haven't we now?
Yes. No, the time when me, you and Laura went, that was XOY for Claude Von Stroke. And the time before that was me, you and Coleman.
That's right.
And that was the first time we had our patty and bun.
And I I do love that time with Laura as well, where we're just walking through that alleyway in London. Joel's sort of like, this is where we need to get to, and then we're going to use all these alleyways. And who did we bump into in the alleyway?
We bumped into Claude Von Stroke himself.
In the alleyway, which was interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Him on his way to the club, which was quite funny, really. A few pictures with him, so yeah, it's pretty cool. But no, it's I must admit, I've got some brilliant pictures of you in your first proper club experience.
Oh Christ!
With your long hair back then as well.
Rocking the before the lockdown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sweaty. I think sweaty was the order of the day for all of us on that night. To be honest with you, it was kind of balls to the wall, so to speak.
Absolutely. 4 a.m. walking out of there was good fun, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and getting a bagel that night.
Oh. Yeah, we went all ended up in the top of Brick Lane.
Yeah. It was.
That is a walk, actually, thinking about it, from XOYO all the way down to Brick Lane.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not crazy, but it is about 25 minutes, half an hour, and to be honest, it's well worth it. Let's be fair now. And we found that crazy trying to look for her bike.
That was weird. That was so
just
strange.
the kind of tagged along because Coleman decided it'd be a good idea to talk to her.
And you were like, no,
let's go.
No. I mean, so it's always with you that because I kind of think I almost think when I think of you, obviously to introduce what you do.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the arts that you do, in my mind, they're kind of split, but they're not, because the DJing side of it is obviously a performance. And I feel like that's separate from what you do as a producer in Logic. Can you tell us a little bit about those two things? Like, do you feel they're separate, or is that just me being weird?
No, I'd certainly say that's probably right. I mean, I absolutely love DJing. It was how I got into kind of music really at 14. I was really young when I started. I think I played out my first set when I might have even been underage. I've got a funny feeling I think I probably was. So yeah, and I was lucky enough to play some big venues and a few boat parties and things like that, with a few DJs. But I always knew I wanted to make music. I knew that it was a real passion. And I started when it was Notator. So we had an Acorn at school, and I started there learning keyboard. So I knew I kind of always wanted to go down that path. And for me, they are separate, but they lend themselves to each other perfectly, because I can always test things. I think that's kind of one most important as well, and two, you have a gauge of what people are making, so the quality that you need to be at, I think, and for me that's probably been one of my biggest problems, in that I don't think anything sounds anywhere near as good as everybody else, and so I'm a bit of a hoarder, as you well know. I kind of have probably 100 tracks that have never been released. And I just need to pull my finger out of my butthole, basically, and finally do something about it, which, comes neatly onto handing you my master. So, I think now especially, my mind is, mainly focused on my daughter, obviously, but I think I've probably been more focused with music than I've ever been, because I think when you have all the other little bits, kind of the stress of work goes, which it was at Stormfront, unfortunately. Sorry to shout out the S front there, not to be harsh. Don't get me wrong. But it was a lot of stress, and you can't really what's the best way of putting it? You can't really give everything that you can do, especially when you're making music. The score. When you're making music, your mind needs to be kind of clear and creative and not stressed out. Although emotion does play a part in it as well.
Well, I suppose as well for you. I mean, obviously being a. I mean, I was very, very happy to get that phone call. With that phone call saying, so we're pregnant. That was really cool, But I suppose in some ways, kind of, because these interviews have kind of touched on people's lives and how they kind of it is a big part of it. If you're a music creator, like you say, it's kind of if you have got quite a stressful day job, it's very difficult to. Well, you bring all that stuff home, don't you? So that's a problem. But I suppose for you, since changing job, then obviously starting a family, and then your music, I suppose in some ways you're doing all your kind of responsible things. And maybe you're saying where you're more kind of focused is maybe you're carving out and saying, right, I've only got an hour and a half, but I'm actually going to give this to myself in terms of my music. And then actually you're probably really focused in that hour and a half.
Exactly.
Would you say, whereas before where you're kind of like, you're stressed. I'm not saying you're not stressed. You still got responsibilities, right? But maybe just because you've kind of like, you've done your day's job, your daughter's gone to bed, Laura's like, go away, Joel, or whatever. It's like, or you're like,
it's usually vice versa, but you're going to bed now, aren't you? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think that it is almost like if you do allow yourself that time, I think you are more focused. Maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've ticked off your day in terms of you've been an adult.
Yeah.
And now it's like, right, this is my time now to do some music.
Precisely that. I think for me, once you kind of have those things in place, it allows you to just express yourself. And at the end of the day, music is exactly that for me. It's always been, I know it sounds crazy, but I started out wanting to be a dancer. There's a little bit of action, a bit for you. And for me, again, that lent itself to music really well because, I felt like I had the timing, the rhythm. I knew what I think people wanted to dance to. Like you say, when you have that creativity inside you, you need to have that clarity as well. And for me now, I feel like I have that clarity. One, I think I know what's the best way to put it? I know my limit. I think I know what I'm good at and what I'm not so good at, to be honest. And I'm working on the bits that I'm not so good at. Because at the end of the day, you kind of, if you're part of a team, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and for me at the end of the day, that is it. If I'm poor at something, then I need to work on it. So, I've stripped back. I mean, even when I sent you the mix, I sent you another one, but because I almost like I was learning as I gave you that, I went, oh my God, now I need to change these things because actually what I thought was right the other day isn't right now. So, it's been a massive journey because I started 13 years ago. I think I went to college 12, 13 years ago now to learn music production, learn all the bits that I needed to do, and I probably didn't give the time that I should have done over the years. Really, and been as organised as I wanted to be. I think that's probably the best way to put it, actually.
I think it's. I mean, you do kind of like. I think we all kind of at times fall in and fall out of it. I think until there's like an opportunity where you can either, like a lot of people during this horrible lockdown now, where they're choosing to. It's been nice to see them choosing to use their time wisely, and kind of get creative. And when we spoke briefly last night about that, what. We've got creative people, whether you're you write scripts or you're writing a book or you're whatever you're doing. I feel like now is like people have got that time to kind of like focus on things, which is a horrible thing to say because obviously this is not a good time for the world. But I think I kind of feel a little bit for the people who aren't creative or don't have a little side gig or a little side job because what the hell are they doing, man? Like it is a bit of that. But I think would you say you started? So, okay, you said you kind of started like looking at, you wanted to be a dancer.
Yeah.
Then you kind of, would you say the DJing came before production or did they come around the same time?
No, the DJing came well before the production. I mean, I was DJing really young, I think. I remember going around to my friend's house, probably getting high, to be honest. That was the main aim. And then he had records, he had his decks, and I bought a pair of belt drives off of him back in the day, where it had two controls, one for 33 and one for 45, which was quite funny. I'm trying to remember. I think they were Tektronix, something like that. I had a dodgy mixer like you've never seen before. Honestly, the likes of it you probably will never see again.
Brilliant.
And I actually it's funny because I've talked to you about I'm doing a podcast, right? But it's reminiscing. I'm really trying to tap into my memory banks, and I remember now. I actually used my dad adapted car speakers.
Okay.
So that I had some monitor speakers for my bedroom.
Brilliant.
Literally. So I had these dodgy, I think they were old, my sister's old, back of the car speakers that I turned into my little monitor speakers. So when you start out on something like that, you kind of know that you're in for the long haul.
Exactly. I love it.
You're like, if I've gone through all this, I'm bloody doing it, So I loved it. I absolutely, I love DJing, I love making music. It's something that as soon as I start doing it again, because I do, like you say about breaking and having those little breaks, it's like I'm kind of back home. I feel kind of grounded, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it was interesting. Yesterday, I was talking to a lovely chap called Dav Benny, who you'll meet at some point, man. And he was kind of like, he does his own radio station from home, and he kind of makes speakers and microphones, which is quite interesting. You're saying about your first monitor speakers. It's kind of in a similar kind of like, I want some monitors. I'm doing it myself, DIY. And he was kind of saying almost the same thing, that, when he was kind of studying, and he wanted to be a barrister, so he was heavily into law, and he was saying that, his keyboard was sort of collecting dust, and his table was like full of law books. And I think we've kind of all been there. Like, I know I've been there. Especially when I'm doing something really boring, like the company accounts. And it's like you're looking at your keyboard. You're like, well, why is it? But this should be clean, and like it should be something I'm writing on, man. So I think you're right. I think when you're finally actually using your gear, because that's the other thing, man. It depreciates, and you invest a lot of money, you invest a lot of time into it, and then you want to keep those systems going. And I feel like there's almost like almost everyone I've spoken to has touched slightly on that the gear's supposed to be used for your music, right? So when you come back to it, you're like, you get that emotional connection back to kind of creating something. I suppose for you, it's quite interesting as well, because sort of starting from the dance floor, if you like, and feeling the music and understanding the rhythm, then then being a DJ, you're kind of actually you're outputting this content to the dance floor, but then kind of being a producer. It's like you kind of you understand that where your product's going, which I think is what's great with Highline, and it's kind of like with you producing and Joel does do this. Like every time I come round, there'll be like you save every night, don't you? So there'll be almost like 300 iterations of a track, and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Like, I'm
the perennial flipping knob twiddler, mate. To be honest with you, sorry for the
absolutely,
but I can't help it and go, that could be better somehow. So. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's how I felt when I first started out. That I had that connection, and instantly when I played, if I finished my set, I wasn't hanging out the back. I'd be on the dance floor, mate.
Yeah,
that would be me. I love it. I love that feeling of partying and feeling the beat. And being creative when you create your own music is exactly that. At the end of the day, it's partly again why I'm quite protective over it, because it's your baby. When you work so hard for something, it's hard to be critiqued. To be honest, and as you well know, bloody the internet now is just the most horrifying bloody thought.
Just a stream. I always call it, the analogy I like to use is like a really wide river, and then kind of like lots of loud noises, and most of those loud noises are just A, talking shit, or are shit, but they're backed, and then you've got all these kind of like lovely souls that are. Just grab me, man. Just help me out. Just help me out. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly,
that is how I kind of see the internet. And I mean, we were talking yesterday as well about almost labels that will actually sign you, take on your music, and then shelve you. Yeah. Because you're almost a direct threat to the stuff they're investing in. Like they don't, exactly. It's just abhorrent and horrific to hear those sorts of things. So. I think from my point of view, the good thing that's been with the master, I mean, it's been strange because even we're on lockdown, I've actually been really busy. I've been really busy, man. But the thing I love with the master you gave me, especially the second master, the latest one you sent me, was where you dialed down, you gave me that 5-6 dB headroom. I know you've played that on your rig, and we'll come on to talk about your tech and your setup in a sec. But I know you would have produced that track, and then you've played it on your rig. So you can't, I know that. So it's like
just behind me there.
I was going to say, I can see a lovely.
Just about see a speaker there somewhere.
Just about, I like you got your bar and then your rig.
Well, you got to make sure that you've got some supplies.
Absolutely, mate. I know you've banged that track out. So it's like for me, obviously, I'm thinking about the master in terms of mono. Are we completely in that +1? We're not going into the kind of minus because that will cause you problems in the club.
Yeah, exactly that.
But I think for me now, it's been interesting because it's sounding loud, which is what we need. But I know when I send it back, the first thing you're going to do is play it on that rig. Because that's like a performance setup, which is great that you've got. Yeah. You want to run us through a little bit, Joel, how you tend to work in terms of your two rigs, your production and your DJing.
Absolutely. I mean, on my production side of things, I've got a bit of an old Mac. It's the workhorse. It's doing quite well, to be honest with you, considering. But that's the reason why I paid the money in the first place. So I've got a 2.7 i7 quad core at 16 gig of RAM, which I upgraded. I probably should have put an SSD in it, but I haven't. I should have done that a while back. And that is, I've got a pair of focal speakers, little near field monitors that are fantastic, just so good for this room, to be honest with you. I haven't treated the room, so they work really well because they don't boom too much. You don't get those sort of pockets of bass around here, whereas on my big KRKs, and I'll come on to them in a minute, man, you've been in this room.
Oh yes.
It absolutely shakes the entire room. So yeah, it's a bit much in here, wooden floors and all, unfortunately, and 70s build flats. I've just got myself a little Novation MIDI controller, liquid mix, which I don't often use as much as I should do. Focusrite audio interface, and literally it's all in the box at the end of the day. I absolutely love creating soundscapes and bass sounds from scratch. I generally, as you probably know, I don't really do presets. That's just my own personal preference. I like to create the sound specific to the track. And when I was first starting out, I think that's what I heard a lot of people do. From the tutorials that I watched huge amounts of tutorials, and they all said that, if you're going to do something, yes, you can tweak a preset, but generally the best way to get something that you want, is to create it yourself. And I love that aspect of it. It's me just dicking around, basically, trying to make something that sounds half decent and then finally come up with a melody. But yeah, the Logic, I'm working on Logic 9 on the iMac still. Probably should have upgraded that, but
I think it's cool, man. I mean, we'll move on to the other rig. I want to just pause you for a sec there. It feeds into kind of like a lot of the chats have been around setups and what people use. You say you kind of, maybe you should have upgraded it. Maybe you should have put an SSD in. Well, okay, if you put an SSD in, then you could probably run the later Logic. But does it matter? Like, at the end of the day, for what you're producing, I know I've seen your sessions. It's like you really are working that system. Yeah. It's like, how much more can we possibly push this system kind of thing? But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, like Dav yesterday, he was saying to me, just kill your Mac, just overload it, like just go for it. Just it's there to be used and abused to make your art.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, I think what's great is that you've got people working on so many different systems. So you're using like Logic 9, but so what are we going to say? Oh no, Joe is using Logic. You know what I mean? It's like well, who cares? It's like whatever your tool is. Yeah. Surely is. I mean, I'm not thinking of upgrading for a while because, like exactly. I've invested all this money. Yeah. You know, I don't feel like I've got my return back yet myself.
Yeah,
personally.
exactly.
So
exactly.
I just lock it down and keep making your music. You know.
Precisely that. Well, I've limited it. So I mean, I think I only put the iMac on Mavericks, and that was only recently because I just thought I knew the capabilities of it. I knew that it would, if I put it on anything newer, it would probably kill my Mac, unfortunately. So yeah, I've kept it like that, and it still serves me well. I mean, I use Ableton as well, so I love to kind of create my I suppose loops, you know, my little loop ideas, because Ableton's absolutely perfect for that, and it runs still absolutely fine on my Mac. So I only get a few glitches every now and then.
As I know, yeah. Mike is doing that thing again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you know, you work with what you got. And you know, like you say, when you've spent, I mean, I don't know how much I spent on the setup, but it's quite probably, you know, well into up to 3K probably.
Yeah,
easily. You know, you kind of think, well, exactly like you say, I don't want to waste that money on something that I one again, what I wouldn't want to put out, and two, waste that sort of time that you've spent building it up. Absolutely.
Exactly that. And for your DJing rig, I mean, are we looking at your first decks, if you like, in the background there, or have they gone through some changes? I know you've recently changed your mixer. Is it kind of the same? Is it kind of the same as where you started out, or have you modded it as you've gone along?
So, I mean, I bought those decks again probably about 12 years ago. I went for Stantons rather than Technics. Motors burnt. Well, actually, no. I say the motors burnt out. I spilled a pint of Guinness on one of the decks, which, to my detriment, I won't go too much into that. That cost me 250 quid to get that fixed, and then that motor, the same motor, died 2-3 years later, I think, just before I was about to have a gig. Of course it would.
Of course it does, mate. It never comes at a good time.
Oh no, never. And then I need to have it replaced again, actually, and that's been quite a while back though. So it kind of does a little bit of fun now, where it just stops on its own without redoing anything, and I'm like, want to work by any chance?
You know, trying to get this track done.
I'm trying to freaking play some music here. But yeah, the mixer, I used to have a DJM 600, which again was bought at the same time as the decks, and that served me really well. But the channels started going on it, and I kind of just thought, you know what, it's time to do it. When I moved to Tractor, because that's what I use now. I really, when I was deciding to kind of move from the vinyl, which hang on, let me see if I can show you some of it. As you probably know, is quite a lot.
I mean,
that's just some of it. There's some of it, and there's more here.
And I know there's some seriously rare releases in there as well, man, and some signed stuff and all sorts of stuff, man.
And my Dyson, sorry.
It's a cool Dyson though.
Thanks, man. So yeah, once I kind of moved from that, I didn't really know where to go, and I just thought, I'd heard Tractor was very good. I'd seen people using it. I thought that was the way to go. So I think you probably saw in the background my old Tractor box, which again, that's now 7 years old, I think, 7-8 years old. when I upgraded everything. So I bought my laptop, my little Mac that I've got here that's served me well, as you know. I did put an SSD in that though. So
the lifesaver of all computers, mate.
Well, that was, to be honest with this, because it was dying heinously. I think, were you there the day that I put the SSD in it?
I believe so.
I believe so. I'm just trying to remember if you were.
DIY.
Yeah, because my hard drive just died in a painful death. The question mark of doom as you turn on your computer.
Not fun.
No, exactly. So when I got that, it was moving on to the world of digital. But I didn't want to play CDJs. I didn't really like I don't like the feel. I love the feel of vinyl. Just that kind of feel of something moving under my hand, and that I can properly kind of control and cue in. I've always felt that way. So, I mean, I played like most DJs at the end of the day. I played vinyl from start, so it's that feel for me. I had to get that time-coded vinyl, and Tractor was just the best option at the time. I've got so now, I mean, at the time I bought as well a little controller, a little MIDI one. If I can, I'll show you that here as well. It's a neat little thing. It's just a little.
Oh wow! Yeah.
The little X1, I think it is, and that's just so I can be a bit more creative. To be honest with you, I really, you can use it for loops, you can use it for cue points. I might often kind of add acapellas in there and use those and cue those up. So for me, that was paramount. That I was able to still do the creative things that I used to do when I had vinyl. So because I'd always drop in acapellas and little cuts of things. So added that in, and now once all the other bits died on me, the control, the mixer and the little interface, I've just got the mixer. So here, I'll show you, because it's actually quite a fun little awesome piece of kit. So this is my mixer now, and it is a sound card and mixer in one, which is
I mean, like NI, Native Instruments, they astound me really, because they make some really awesome. I mean, I use Contact in like everything.
Yeah, exactly.
For sampling, but their hardware is almost like second to none.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
The quality of the faders and the quality of the build is like incredible. They really have spent a lot of time putting into that. And I think the DJ, because the first time I really paid attention to what DJing was at your flat. I've never really sort of like seen that. Obviously, we've all seen the guy at the back. We've seen Mouse with his crazy mask on, and we've done all that stuff. But that was the first time I really saw like you kind of bringing vinyls into the same time in terms of the BPM, and then kind of mixing two tracks together that actually works, which kind of blew my mind. And it's like it really is I'd call it a dark art, because it just is like I mean, I've tried to do it. Being a little bit drunk probably as well, being like, how does this work, John?
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Mate. It doesn't help, mate, in the slightest, But like to actually be able to merge two tracks together, like bring in and on the fly as well, like, slowing up BPM so it's barely noticeable to the listener, the audience, and then all of a sudden you're like, hang about, I know that track. He's just brought that. How's that? What? It really is like it astounded me that really the talent that goes into that. And you must have spent a long time DJing, man.
Yeah, I have. I mean, like I say, I'm now 37, and I started when I was 14, 15. So, bloody long time, 23 years at the end of the day. Amazing. It's, even when I think about that, it makes me feel a bit ill. Actually, I'm like, bloody hell. I'm getting a bit of an old boy now, but no, I mean, hence the reason why the giant collection of vinyl, to be honest with you, at the end of the day. Having said that, I'll tell you what I did see on Facebook. I saw Carl Cox's collection of vinyl, and he's got over 150,000 records.
Wow.
Yeah, it's literally like walking into a shop for vinyl in his home. And you're just like... That's badass. It did make me wet myself a little bit.
Has he got it well categorized? Is my question. Is it actually is it categorized in a? That's a lot of vinyl, dude. Like you imagine you're trying to find one release. Like, can he find it?
So he's got it in years.
Okay.
So, which is actually quite a good idea. I should have thought about that, really. Mine's kind of separated into genre, so that I can easily find drum and bass or breakbeat or funk or hip hop or whatever. Yeah, I can imagine. God, I like it though, because he's doing his DJ live streams now, and he says he just goes to a year, picks out 5 records, and then puts them on the side, and then goes to another year. So, you know,
just mix those two together by year. That's really cool.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Really cool.
But no, I mean, for me, over the years, man, geez, yeah, I've developed a lot. I've changed a lot as well.
Absolutely.
I think my style has always been pretty quick. As you know, I don't mess around with my mixing, man. No. It's I'll drop a track in in about 5 seconds if I need to. But I always like to play a little bit of everything, a little bit of funk, a little bit of drum and bass is obviously my main thing, but a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. I think it's like it's definitely cool, man. I've seen kind of like the real like high line pumping the hell out of that thing, and then the kind of like the 3am. Let's play a little downbeat hip hop, or like let's play a little chilled out stuff. Turn the dial down, sit down and relax. So I've been on both edges of it, which is cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've got some damn good vinyl here still. I love to still play that. I've got not just hip hop and stuff. I've got band music. I think were you here when we were listening to Kate Tempest as well? Yep. I think on New Year's Eve.
That's right.
So that on vinyl is just brilliant as well. So, yeah, it's for me. At the end of the day, music for DJing. There's music for DJing, so to speak, and there's music for listening to.
Absolutely.
Especially on vinyl. Bear with me 1 second, because my Mac, and I still want to be able to see you, is about to go into lockdown mode. So let me just plug it in.
Which is not good. Which is not good.
No, exactly. I don't want that locking down as well. No. So bear with me a minute.
No worries. I'm glad we can still
have a chat.
We can check out the dreads while we're talking to you via the AirPods, mate.
Exactly. Exactly that.
Well, how long have you been growing those dreads?
Oh Jesus, man! As long as I've been DJing, nearly. No. No. So I was a teenager again. 19 was the last time I cut my hair.
Wow.
So
amazing.
Yeah, it's been a very long time. There we go.
We're back. You got charge.
So yes.
I suppose
I didn't set that up very well.
One thing we spoke yesterday about was you're looking to do a podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about the podcast? What are you thinking for the podcast? What's the kind of aim behind it there?
Well, I think the aim is to be honest, is to look back at where I kind of came from in terms of my music. We're so focused often or not on now and what's going to happen, and sometimes right now, especially when we're in a really difficult time, it's kind of nice to reflect back and really, really pick your brain for where you kind of came from. What shaped you now. And for me to really kind of delve deep into, okay, where did I really get my musical influences from? Where did I really get my musical taste from? And also a little bit of reminiscing about, like I just said to you, using bloody car speakers for my first ever setup. It's funny because I was thinking about the music I listened to when I was in my mum's car, or to not go into it too much, I was fostered. So I've got my real mum and my foster mum. Both of them are equally interested in music, and they had different tastes. So from one side of it, I was getting Bruce Springsteen, the Beatles, and from the other side of it, I'm getting things like James Brown, but also things like the Smiths and the Cure. And
amazing, real talent pools right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly that. I think I'm really lucky in that respect. That even my dad as well. My dad was in a band, and my foster father was a classical pianist, and he was an incredible pianist. We had a grand piano when I grew up, and you'd always just hear him playing at night after dinner, you know.
Right.
For me, that's what I want this podcast to be about. I want it to kind of say, well, you know, some people have so many little bits about where that music came from, where that real love for music came from. And for me, I had so many, you know, I had so many influences. I was lucky enough to have my stepfather was massive reggae. He used to go to, in fact, he's been to Bob Marley's house, stayed with Bob Marley's family before.
Wow.
Yeah, so, you know, after he died, but had been to his house, and his influences when I was younger again was kind of that sort of side of it. So yeah, it's like I want it to be, you know, I want to pull people in, yourself, talk about where you came from with it, and you know, I know that during this sort of time, people have a lot of time to reflect, you know, and kind of ground themselves again.
Definitely.
And it's nice to know where you came from.
Absolutely. I think the thing with doing podcasts and the things that, while these have been almost like, you know, look guys, these are all the amazing people that Aurora knows and has kind of like, you know, spoken to. But I think doing these sorts of chats and doing a podcast, it kind of teaches gratitude. I think Absolutely. It teaches you to kind of, it gives you the opportunity to look at your life and see what you have done and kind of like where you came from, you know. And I think that sometimes, like when you look backwards and join those dots, like in your past, it does help you to kind of ground where you are now. And I think doing a podcast is an excellent way of doing that. And not only does it kind of do that for you, but I think it does it for everybody else, like who listens to the podcast. They suddenly remember bits of history that perhaps they've forgotten, or like, oh yeah, I remember that if you were doing a specific record or a specific, say, limited release you were talking about and when you bought it and the story behind it, you know, it will trigger someone else who perhaps has the same release, or maybe someone who unfortunately had to sell that release. They had some money. There's that as well, you might find, Joel, that you kind of like, oh, I'm so glad I kept hold of this because the rent was a bit tight that year. You know what I mean? Like, kind of thing. Like, you know. So exactly, I think it's ace, man. I'll definitely come on and have a chat to you.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing as well. At the end of the day, music has so much for everybody. You know, in this sort of time, it brings together. It still brings people together. You know, we're looking at all these streams that people are doing now, and you know, again, I want to do something like that because you know, that's exactly what people need right now. Is that camaraderie, but without necessarily being together.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw just to cut in there, just because it's just reminded me. I don't want to forget it, but you know, in Italy, where they've been on lockdown far longer than us and really been having some real problems in it. I mean, Italy's been really affected. But like, there's that chap who just sort of brought his keyboard out and he's playing "My Heart Will Go On," like the Titanic theme, and then I absolutely creased up because you suddenly hear this saxophone man, right? And the camera pans, and there's this fella like with a hat on, leaning off his balcony, right, and he's joining in playing a sax lead on the song.
Oh man!
And I thought that was just amazing, man. I thought that was absolutely. I thought it was stunning. I really did.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that, and it's so powerful, isn't it, man? I love that. It brings people together because it has no boundaries.
That's right.
You know, at the end of the day, there's no rules. There's no. To an extent, there's no rules, but there is no rules with it, and you kind of feel like it's universal. Absolutely. It doesn't matter where you're from, who you are. You absolutely exactly that. And you know, for me doing this, I think you kind of remember things like the first time I heard something, where I heard it, where I was, you know, or the first time I went to a rave. My mind just went, you know, just absolutely blown away. So it's, I think that's what I really want it to be about. I really want to get people on who have similar stories and have a completely different taste in music as well from their upbringing. Sure. But now, funnily enough, we have common ground as well now. So, I'm really excited about it, to be honest with you. I've got to pull the kit together, as you know, waiting for Amazon
to sort you out.
But I get it. At the end of the day, you got to prioritize the right things, and maybe a boom arm and a shock for the mic isn't necessarily an essential item, as we're calling it now.
But there's one thing I thought, because I needed to buy my flatmate Rick. His old man had asked him to buy him some guitar strings.
Yeah.
And they're going to take a month to get to Rick's dad.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, well, we were talking about music and how kind of healing it is and how important it is. To me, guitar strings are an essential item for someone who's down and can't go out of their house. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, what else the hell are they going to do? But I think that leads us really nicely, I suppose. We've touched on a little bit of your past, which I know you'll embellish way more in the podcast. And I urge people, when Joel gets that together, do go and check that out. And we where we kind of are now, which I suppose leads us naturally on to kind of like, what's Joel thinking in the future? What are you kind of like? Do you have? Obviously, I know you're an incredibly busy guy. You've started a new job. You just started a family. You're focusing on your music as much as you can, which is amazing to hear. But do you have almost like have you got kind of like maybe goals for this year that you want to achieve, or maybe into next year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think. Giving you the master was definitely one. I wanted to finish that track because I've been working on it, as you know, for probably 3 years now.
That's about right.
I think, which is pretty horrifying when you think about it. But I really want to put an EP together. I think my production's at a level now where I feel comfortable that what I'll put out is pretty damn close to the standard, and I'll only learn more as I keep doing it. I think a 4-track EP could be. That's what I'm aiming for. This being one of the tracks. I've got a B-side as well that I've been working on that I need to just. Well, actually, I need to try and get it in from my laptop, because my laptop's got Logic 10 on it, and I've worked on it on that laptop rather than on the main computer. I want to try and get it across to Logic 9 and just bounce out the stems so that I can properly finish that, mix it, and then hand it hopefully to you again to master for me.
There we go.
If you have time.
Absolutely.
If you have time. I think the biggest aim really would be to play my track out at a gig. I mean, that would just play your own music at a gig. Get DJing again at some point, but I wouldn't mind if it was 1 or 2 nights for the rest of my life. If I ever did that and just played out my own music to people and got a response, it'd be pretty fucking awesome, wouldn't it? So
absolutely, I'd be there, mate.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely. Well, thanks, man. Thank you. But yeah, I think the podcast. That's obviously a new idea. I'm going to do a live DJ stream as well, as long as my decks hold up and don't die on me while I'm using it. I think that's really it, man. I really want to just make good music, make music that I hope people will enjoy, and just work really hard. At the end of the day, sometimes kind of things come from luck, but a lot of it comes from working your balls off.
Absolutely.
To kind of get to where you want to be, and whether that be my work, that I work hard at that, and then I come home and I work hard at this, or it's working on your relationships, or working on taking care of your family and things like that. You got to pull your finger out and do it. So yeah, that's kind of the aim. So music is, I guess, at the moment, sort of second to the family. Absolutely. But it'll always be at the forefront of my mind, and I will always want to make music and play music for people and myself mainly. I know it sounds crazy, but I just love dropping dirty flipping double drop drum and bass beats basically, and finding a new a new mix that I didn't think I could probably do, and then suddenly it comes out, and you're like, oh my lord, what did I just do? Yeah.
I think it's definitely. I mean, I think the music. I mean, seeing you progress as well as a producer over the last few years has been amazing for me. You know, like. Every time I come around to Joel's, it'd be like, check out this mix, Mike, and I'm kind of opening up a few plugins, and I'm looking at the spectrum, and I suppose I'm always looking at it from like a master perspective in a point. I'm always looking at it in terms of the overall sonics and that sort of thing. But I agree. I think you've really kind of like, it's not to say that you would, that when I first met you, that your tracks were bad, but it's just you just through the processes that you've done, I think you've taken it to a release standard kind of thing, where it is. You can drop it in there, and the master's sounding great. You know, my end. I've been so sort of distracted, I suppose, with A doing these videos, which has been amazing, talking to so many kind of like amazing souls. And obviously I'm doing a short film, and I put the Skyquakers new tracks. I released it yesterday. It's coming out on the 12th. The time's slowly freeing up, you know, and I would hope we'll get that master to you kind of in the middle of the week, and you can then sort of pick it apart and say. Whatever else will play out. I think it's kind of I think it's an exciting time, really, man. I think everyone's pulling together really well, and everyone's growing, which is what this is all about, isn't it? Really.
Precisely that, man. I think you want to be a better version of yourself.
That's right.
Every time, anytime you think about it, and that's not to say you were bad before. Just more mean that you want to develop and you want to learn the skills that you previously didn't have, or that you want to learn from your mistakes, so to speak. So, yeah, I think with the music, certainly for me, I've been at pains, Jesus, it's literally been blood, sweat and tears. I swear I've probably hurt myself quite a few times doing things, and I've probably cried quite a few times.
Absolutely.
When things aren't going so well, but when they do, and when you make something that you're really proud of, or you play, you play a few tracks and people go flipping heck, that's a fat mix, or just dance, man, then it makes it all worth it, really, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I agree.
It's just it's special. I think that's the thing. Like for me, music is like my blood. Ever since I was young. Like I say, DJing, ever since sort of hearing it and dancing and things like that, it really is kind of ingrained in me. So
part of your DNA.
Absolutely, part of my DNA. Exactly that. But yeah, I'm really excited about the future, man. We got, like you say, you're so busy, and it's really, I'm really happy to see that, man, because it's just, I know you've worked so bloody hard to get there as well. So it's really good to see that everybody that wants to do something is trying to do something about it.
Absolutely agreed. I mean, I suppose as like I've been trying to kind of like you're looking at doing like a live kind of DJ, a live mix. Or where can people kind of like I know you're not doing that right now, but when you come to do that, would it go out on Mixcloud? Would it go out on Beatport? Would it go out through SoundCloud? Where do you think maybe people could? Well, I suppose what I'm trying to say is, where can people find you, mate? Where can I can I link you down? You know what I mean?
So I'll probably doing it on Facebook or Instagram. I don't know yet which one. I'm trying to figure out Instagram. Instagram really flips me to do live things. I have no idea how you do a longer video than the 10-second stories. How does that work? How do you do that?
I think it's like, is it IGTV? You have to kind of go on that, and then that yes, it's called IGTV. It's like a separate part of Instagram that's tied into it, and I believe then you can do longer videos. The only thing I think with that is, I think once you're off, you're off. Don't think it saves it. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I could be wrong. It might be that you can kind of, there is a way you can save it out, because you might want to upload it to YouTube or whatever else. But yeah, I believe it's the IGTV part of Instagram.
Okay, I sound really old when I say that. I don't know how to do that, don't I?
Mate, I've had it. There's this house party app that all the youngsters are on, and where it's almost like a video conferencing for like loads of people. And I kind of downloaded it, installed it, added my brother, and then it's quite. all of a sudden he's saying he's talking to me. I'm like, what? I didn't say press call or accept. I'm like, this is scary, mate. Do you know what I mean? And then he's added in his friend who I kind of work with. I got her a job. I'm like, oh, hey, Alicia, like, how's it going? I'm thinking, well, you know, I'm glad I'm not on the toilet or something here. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I felt old then, mate. I felt old. And then they were taking the piss out of me because I couldn't figure out how to end the call. And like, look at him trying to end the call. And I'm like, oh Christ! I finally hit that kind of like, you know, I'll be retiring soon, mate.
Yeah, technology is unfortunately too fast for us right now. Jesus. And I thought we were quite up to speed. So yeah, imagine how everybody else feels. Jesus.
Exactly that.
But no. I think Facebook or Insta. I'll be the podcast. I think we're going to do through
Droplet.
Obviously, yeah, exactly, Droplet. And I'll probably be putting the music out through you. So I think so. Anyway,
yeah, absolutely. It's so that drum and bass on that excites me because it's AP's become a real. That's one thing that's happened as well. I think during this lockdown is it's actually given me time to sit and think. Well, what the hell is this company? And really, any company is all about the people in it, isn't it? Like you know, like a company can go from great to evil just based on who's actually running that company or who's in the company. And I thought, you know, it really is becoming a collective, and it's bringing people together. And I think by rebranding it as a multi-genre kind of collective music production, it's helped me. It causes problems because, of course, like if someone comes to the label to buy Highline and then they're seeing like heavy metal, they're like, what? Or someone comes to buy a film score and then they're seeing like punk and rock and drum and bass, they're like, what? But at the same time, I think if the message is clear, and I think these, you know, people can really see the passion in the teams. I think there's really something quite special there. People can work together, network, you know, and it's almost like, you know, your release goes out, Skyquake's release goes out, my release goes out. You know, after I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to a chap called Les, who's a great guitarist, and he's in about 5 bands, and God knows what else he's got releases he wants to put out. So it's like a real collective. So yeah, man, we'll talk on that without a doubt.
Yeah. Maybe you could do a little sub kind of record label, so to speak. So you got your kind of things going on, and we could do Bell Inc. or.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love that. Well, because that's the thing. As it grows, it could be like that. It could. I mean, there's no end to it really. It's almost like, you know, there could be a drum and bass section of it that you could run. You know, there could be a rock section of it that Steve could run. There could be a metal section that Rick runs. There could be. Do you know what I mean? There's no real. I'm quite kind of like. I'm very open in that respect. I don't really think it's There's any limit there, and I suppose the same, you know, with you now doing a podcast, and with me doing these videos, and it's like you say. I think everyone's just kind of like sitting there and thinking, actually, like, what's going on in the world? Like, am I really doing what's kind of been making me happy? I suppose. Like, what is my actual core calling? I think a lot of people are going through that kind of existential thing right now.
Yeah, exactly that. I think. Well, in times of crisis, you generally start to kind of really contemplate a bit more and what's essential and what's really important to you. You know, when it happened. When you're talking, when we had things like swine flu and stupid things like that, when it was really, really bad. You know, when people were getting ill left, right, and centre. People go through those sort of phases again. You know. People have children at this time, you know. There's plenty of. It's just you know, you kind of when you're like, so what else do we do? Oh, let's have a child. That'd be a good idea.
It's definitely a good idea, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't complain, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
My daughter's basically my world. Like, she's just incredible. But you know, talking strictly from a sort of human perspective, so to speak, we do when it's really bad, we tend to really kind of think about, okay, what do I really, really want from life? What do I really care about? And at the end of the day, it's really good for you because you tend to get away. You kind of push away all the crap, and really, really focus. Or at least I think a lot of people do. I'd certainly say there are some people that find it difficult to do that. But I think a lot of people do. They push away the shit and really work on the things that are, like you said, make them happy. One, maybe they develop a new skill, or they simply do the things that they were supposed to do 5 years ago.
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, I would hope that. I mean, I'd be interested to see, how many people have learned to sort of strum a few chords or do a painting. I think there's going to be a fair few divorces after this kind of lockdown, where people are sort of stuck in their house, and all the sort of stuff that's been swept under the carpet slowly everyone's personal habits and sort of, you know what I mean? It's like I think as well. I think it's going to force people who, I've always been quite a big advocate. I mean, you've known me for a long time, and you've seen me go through some pretty. Well, we've both gone through highs and lows, right? And we've kind of both discussed those things. And I think I've always been an advocate for kind of, learning to spend a little bit of time on your own, go for some walks, which people can do still, and kind of figure yourself out. And I hope for the world is that people don't just because there's only a certain amount of Netflix you can watch, man. There's only a certain amount of playing video games you can do. There's going to come a point where if we go into another month of this, which I think we will, there's going to come a point where I hope people kind of sit down and think about their life and try and come out of this really with a positive resolution.
Absolutely. But one, a positive resolution. Two, I think probably a better look on how we want to live as a society. I know that's a bit deep now. We're getting into it.
Absolutely. But absolutely.
But I actually think that, this whole crazy panic buying shite. I've seen pictures of the waste that people have gone through. So, quite clearly it was stupid.
That's just rubbish.
So it's just rubbish. So I think, and that's fair enough not to absolutely slam anyone that did it. I get the panic. I understand the reasoning, so to speak, but actually, most people, if they took a step back and probably realizing now as they're throwing out that £10 big old piece of meat that they bought, they need to do it. And if everybody had just taken what they would normally have, their weekly shopping, and kept their distance, let's not go into too much of what happened, the politics of it all, because quite clearly there have been things that we could have done a lot better as a country, and actually as companies. At the end of the day, I don't think it was that too difficult to put limits on things almost immediately, rather than waiting and cashing in a bit on it. So I think people will come out of this and think, well, actually, do I really need to? And they probably would have learned some things like, things like lentils and grains and things that they never would cook with, because that's all they had on the shelves at the time, to actually survive. Yeah, exactly. To make a nice meal, to survive in a world where actually we might not have some of the things in 20 years' time. We might not be able to have those things that we're used to having. So in some ways, the world's recovering. We've seen reports of the ozone layer bloody repairing itself. Wildlife.
Absolutely. I mean, the skies do seem clearer.
Skies seem better. Yeah. Animals are coming out more. What else did I see? The rivers in Venice, the canals in Venice, clear water, fish returning to them. Things like that. When you sort of see that, you think, well, yeah, we've been going at 1,000,000 miles an hour for the last probably 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I guess so. Yeah, you're talking for us, the Western world, Industrial Revolution. Yeah, so I'd say, I'd say 50. Only reason I kind of think that is the technology advancements in those last sort of 50 years, probably 40, 50 years, have really, really meant that we've kind of been going at this crazy speed, and people needed to chill. So
be grateful.
Like I say,
like gratitude.
Exactly.
It's like you've seen the campaigns from Apple recently, where it's like, you know, they're trying to get people to like buy a new MacBook. It's like, no one's going to buy a MacBook now, mate. You know, it's like, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're both sitting here doing this through Apple Tech. It's amazing. It's, you know, I'm not trying to slam Apple, but it's like. I think I think basically what you're trying to say is the consumerism element of it. I mean, man, the only thing I couldn't get in the store was mayonnaise, and it's like, boo-hoo, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no.
You couldn't get any mayonnaise. Like, what? How am I gonna push forward in the world, mate? You know, 2 weeks without any mayonnaise. You know, it's like, come on, man, relax.
Literally first world problems personified, essentially, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, I couldn't get the mayonnaise. You know, the organic one, yes. Yeah, so
of course. Interestingly, there was a vegan mayonnaise which no sod bought.
I bet that bloody was. Fucking vegan mayonnaise. They're like, paying that shit, and it's probably fucking good as well. That's the
absolutely.
thing.
I mean, maybe I should have bought it, but I still that. Maybe that's a testament to my dedication to. I like my free range Hellman's mayonnaise. I
like my freaking Hellman's mayonnaise. I ain't taking that bloody vegan shit.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, Joel, mate, it's been lovely speaking to you, mate. It really has, and seeing your face, because we haven't seen each other with this lockdown for a long time, man. You know, missing you and the family. Absolutely. You know.
Yeah. Well, when all this shit's done, man, we have to go for a pint and a chaser of some sorts.
Absolutely.
We'll see if we can find a shimmy. We might actually be able to do our pint and shimmy chaser. I think that'll be the one. But yeah, definitely, man. I think when it's all done, we'll crack open a few. Hopefully, release some more music.
Absolutely.
And have a bit of a party, I reckon.
Lovely, mate. Wicked,
mate. Thank you very much. It's been superb.
Absolutely, mate. Big love to the family, mate. Yeah.
And you, mate. Say hello to everyone that you see from me. All right.
I will do, and I'll link Joel. I'll link you below, man. Anything I can find. Just if there's any specific links you want me to put, I'll put them down there. All right, mate.
Nice one. Well, I have got my Mixcloud with some old mixes on it. So if anybody ever wants to listen to those, I have got a SoundCloud. Although I probably wouldn't go there because SoundCloud is shit house, isn't it? Now, let's be honest.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And yeah, I've got my Highline Facebook page, which I'm pretty bad on, to be honest. So I could maybe do with some pointers from you on that. But yeah, just look, peace, love, and take care of people, everybody. You know, flipping. I know that sounds a bit preachy, but at the end of the day, you know, if you see someone that you know that needs help, keep your distance. But try and help them as best you can, because the only way we're going to get through this is with love, care, and obviously some music. Without question.
Preach it, man. Preach it, mate.
All right, guys. Well,
dude, thank you very much,
take care of yourself.
See you
Big
later.
love, yeah.
Bye.
Bye.